is everyone?
We're doing amazing. We're so excited to have you with us for sure.
Well, I'm super amped. I love Texas, so let's
let's do it.
Welcome to the party.
Are we live?
We're live on YouTube, and this week we have a very exciting 30-second intro video because we're getting like super professional in our 20th week here. So roll video. Roll video. Yeah.
Nice.
Very cool. I love it. So welcome everyone. It is the Texas Hemp Party. I'm your host, Leah Laxton. Of course, I'm joined this week by my two amazing co-hosts. Right below me, I've got Captain Cannabis.
Yeah.
And
Science Guru.
To my left, yes, the wordsmith. To my left, I believe, I'm not sure, this might be reversed. It might be the right, but I think it's to the left. I have, of course, our amazing producer, Cynthia Morales. What's up, Cynthia?
Happy Thursday.
Yeah, it's Thursday, July 23rd, and we're so excited to have two special guests with us this week. We have Kayla Haddis-Heard from Colorado with some Texas roots. We'll be talking about that. And I'm amazingly excited that Scheril Murray Powell has joined us. I've been fanning out on you for quite a while, and this is super exciting. I was telling Cynthia I'm a little bit nervous, but you know, it's all right. Glad
to be here, and I'm a fan as well. I love it. Thank you so much. Super excited.
It's so awesome. And you guys are into so much. So I think it's going to be really fun to just have a conversation today about hemp in the various states that y'all are operating or working in, and hemp here in Texas, of course. It is a Texas Hemp Party. So we actually got out this weekend. It was super exciting for us because this was our first time ever planting hemp in Texas. We visited farms before, Kentucky, Montana, Colorado, seen it happening, but never actually got to get our hands in the soil. And this weekend we went out to Tejas Hemp, did the whole thing. It was amazing. On Monday, my back hurt so bad because being inside, I haven't done any working out or physical labor in quite some time. So it was really magical though. So super exciting. So I want to ask you guys, maybe we could start with Scheril. How did you get in this industry? Because you've got your hands in a lot of sides of it, which that's what's really awesome and interesting. How did you get into it? And what's your most current project that you're excited about?
Sure. Well, first, hello, Texas. I love Texas. I spent some time in the Dallas area, Houston area, and I've always been really welcomed in the state of Texas. So just wanted to say that. I'm Scheril Murray Powell, Esquire. I am a cannabis and agricultural attorney. So how I got started kind of ties back to me being a lawyer. And it's not like I've been lawyering for years. This is my second career. I was a non-traditional student, went back. Actually, I had an earlier webinar with incoming law school students from my alumni, Florida International University College of Law. So it brought back a lot of memories, but have been lawyering a long time, but I kind of just dug in and found a niche area, which is cannabis, shortly after I became a lawyer. So when I started, I talked to senior counsel at my law firm, and they were really kind of skeptical. They didn't think that there was a cannabis law segment in existence. Was it lawful for me to do that? Keep in mind, since I started practicing cannabis law, I've lost 3 bank accounts that closed down just because I support the industry. I wasn't at that time touching plants. So it's been a joyride. It has been amazing being in the cannabis industry. helping cannabis businesses develop and grow, starting with baby companies that became multi-million-dollar companies with, my assistants and great visionaries. So I've had an amazing run in this industry. There was a turning point where I said, hey, I like helping other companies make money, but I'd like to make sure I'm creating a legacy for myself. And we can really speak about, that concept of legacy. But how did I get into it? It's really like, it was very spirit-led. Then it's like God told me to start Googling cannabis law, and I did, and I couldn't stop. I was like, this is what I was meant to do. At that point, I hadn't smoked any herb for like a decade. I was pretty much not in the industry at all, and went to my first event and then listened and learned. And I was like, I don't see a lot of me here. I don't see anyone who looks like me. I don't see anyone from my background. And I said, hey, I think it would be encouraging for other people, regardless of their background, to see someone like me. So I went to one event to listen, and then after that I was speaking, and I haven't stopped speaking ever since.
That's amazing. And I love the fact that you're involved on agriculture side, but then also with U.S. Hemp Building Council as well, which I think is an amazing, exciting part of the industry.
Yeah, I'm super excited about the U.S. Hemp Building Association, because there's so much focus on the CBD area of the hemp space. And that's where I cut my teeth. I was in-house counsel for Green Roads for almost 3 years. I was in-house counsel for Sunflora for about, somewhere around 2 years. I still do work for Sunflora, which is your CBD store. Every time you see a Your CBD store, it's our brand. Like, the founders are awesome. It started as a mom and pop, and it's grown since then. And I'm doing work for them overseas now, like in UK and Europe and Jamaica, and getting them registered different places. So it's amazing that an industry in its infancy has really picked up so close. But U.S. Hemp Building Association is a great organization, USHBA, as we call it. You can join USHBA, ushba.org, and we'd love to have you as members. Some of the things I'm working on now, I have a new venture with a friend of mine called, thanks, that's our website. Go join us, definitely join us.
Some amazing events going on too, virtually, that have been going on. Amazing tours, just a great community. So definitely go join.
It's a phenomenal community. We kind of try to lead the industry. We and not the last board meeting, but the meeting before, we decided, hey, we understand what's going on in these times, and we want to make sure that we continue to be a diverse organization. So one, we've committed to putting our entire membership through diversity and inclusion, racial bias training. And then we've also created scholarships for individuals of color, so that we'll give 50 scholarships every year to make sure that we're always focusing on being diverse and having diverse perspectives. So very proud of the organization for that. I'm also on the Friends of Hemp board. They've been around for quite some time, and it's kind of like, we like to think of ourselves as bringing other hemp organizations that maybe have specific affinities kind of together from a government relations perspective, from a interface with universities perspective. So we're doing a kind of a relaunch of our website and things like that. So you'll hear more on that. My latest venture is called Cannabisiac. So Cannabisiac is, oh my gosh, it's like an incubator, accelerator, co-working space specifically for people with cannabis businesses. So we've heard so much great feedback. We were like, oh, okay, we're just getting started. It'll be slow. Like, we had our first webinar last week. We had like almost 90 people sign up for it. We've had people sign up to be members, and we're very personal, and we have the luxury of being really personal with our members because we're just starting and because we're so slow. But the members will hear directly from me. They get to interface with our CEO and other parts of our leadership, and there's a lot of support. We wanted to make sure it stayed affordable, because you hear these licensing fees and huge amounts to get involved in the business, which is true. It's impossible to run a successful cannabis business without capital, but we wanted to make it where you can have building blocks. You can build on your knowledge to build your empire. And that's really what we're hoping for people who have that desire in their heart to be involved in the industry, but monetize. As a cannabis activist, that's always a difficult balance. Like in order for the law to move forward, legalization to move forward, it takes a lot of time and sacrifice from people who are in the industry. But that you still have to take care of your family. So how do you find that balance? And sometimes people have to give up their activism so that they can take care of the home front. So we want people to have that balance and have that support. So we will help you build a business based on your core competencies where you can support your families and you can monetize that while you continue to join us in our activism and our legalization effort. And finally, I'm also a hemp farmer like you. So I'm working on a multi-state project. So I have a farm, Maryland, South Carolina, and in Florida. We're working with two phenomenal universities, University of Florida and University of Maryland Eastern Shore. So we are growing hemp. We have fantastic donors of genetics that we're trialing, and we just want to make sure that farmers can have that confidence that they're not going to put their life savings and have a crop that runs hot. We are truly about research and research that can be used for farmers to have that confidence and build a business that they can be proud of and not have to have the losses that we've seen in past years.
That's amazing. I think with Cannabiziac, it's such a really cool organization because a lot of things you're offering are virtual, and networking virtually has become kind of almost second nature now in the times that we're living in. So being able to connect with people around the country is so exciting. But Cannabiziac also has a physical location as well, right?
Yes.
In Florida. So that's amazing. What a fantastic thing for people that are based in Florida to get to
and
do that.
Thank you for stating that. We do have a physical location in West Palm Beach, and we're looking at launching other satellite locations where those plans have been put on pause due to COVID, because who wants to pay a lease when you're not going to have that traffic? And we want people to be safe. But once we get past this hump as a nation, as an industry, as a family, we would like to have these hubs where people live, work, and play. We want to bring that closer to people so that they can have the resources, they can have the support, whether it's just encouragement, whether it's like being that connector for other people to collaboratively build something sustainable. So thank you for stating that. We are a co-working space, and you can have your own area and use our conference room. So you have that professional appearance when you may not have the capital to invest in your own.
Yeah, and this is definitely an industry where you need a lot of knowledge and support, because every day it's like something new and someone else has probably experienced it before you, for sure.
Yeah, we were definitely talking about that yesterday, right, Leah? About how, we forget that there's just so many pieces to this puzzle that we can't do it alone. So we got to remember to collaborate and network and partner up. And who you do that with is very important, of course, but having that unity is always very, very helpful, especially for first-time entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I think there's
good, positive, and fair people to work with.
Yeah, for sure. It's
not easy. It's not easy vetting folks, and that's part of my job as a lawyer, is really bringing teams together for a license. Because you want to make sure that let's talk about the access to capital issue. So because cannabis has been, forbidden, scheduled, et cetera, whether it's marijuana or hemp, we've just gotten out of the dark side as a hemp industry. Capital wasn't readily available. So just, regular small business, they can traditionally go to SBA and different, traditional lending, but cannabis hasn't been that way. So it makes the industry participants very vulnerable to predatory contracts, predatory lending, et cetera, and so on. So, by, to your point about you need to know who you're in business with, it's, at all levels, all parts of the value chain, you need to make sure that you research and engage the right people that you have your legal team, you have a lawyer who reviews everything that you sign. It's never like they can say, oh, this is exactly what we spoke about, and you sign a document. I've heard those stories. I've seen the outcomes. You really need to have a lawyer on board who understands the industry, whether it's agricultural cannabis, and can guide you along the way and protect your interests, or at least say, listen, eyes wide open, you're giving up this, but I know what your long-term plan is. So if you're okay with giving this up, we can work for the next contract to be better. And a lot of times in our industry, you don't get the best contract up front, just like in the music industry, just like the boy band. You don't always get that stellar contract, but you need to know what you're getting into when you sign.
Well, and Scheril, you made some great points that kind of lead me into something I wanted to talk about today with you is how, my name's Kayla, by the way.
By the way, let's get to you, Kayla, too.
I just figure you all know me, I've been around.
I do feel like they probably do.
But Scheril, a lot of companies that I work with, I did a lot of compliance consulting when I first came in, because I came from a very compliant heavy industry, is that a lot of these companies are operating in a gray zone because the rules aren't clear. They're kind of open for interpretation, whether those laws, and before the 2018 Farm Bill, we're operating under the 2014 Farm Bill, which is pilot program. So it differed by every state, had their own rules. I'm very, very lucky and blessed to be in Colorado, where the state took it upon themselves to make these rules a little more clear. But we have a lot of these people operating in the gray zone. And how do you, as a legal counsel, take that gray zone and kind of make it a little bit more black and white for the people whenever things aren't quite clear, like the interim final rule?
That's an awesome question. And I just want to say, Kayla, I love you and thank you for always supporting everything that I do and including me in sharing your platform today with me. That's a very interesting question. So the gray area for our industry is where we've survived and thrived. So gray area for us hasn't always been like a negative. It's been kind of like, while we were gray, it gave us an opportunity and time to get up to speed with what would be compliance measurements when laws went into place, when a regulatory framework went into place. So if we didn't have that gray area, or that period between, let's say, the Farm Bill of 2014 and the Farm Bill of 2018, that gray time was essential time for us to really understand, hey, regulations mean GMP. Regulations mean track and trace. The cannabis entrepreneur, traditionally when, the dark side period, which is even prior to a Farm Bill of 2014, prior to legalization, that industry is a lot different than what the industry is now. And it's a lot different from what, food services looks like. Right. So, the gray area gave us that opportunity. And I think with the gray area, how I support my clients is really looking at overarching, what does the federal law say? So federal law says that hemp is legal. They didn't take the extra step of really addressing CBD in the federal legislation, but hemp is legal. We know this is a derivative of hemp as CBD and other cannabinoid medicine, et cetera. But we do have the looming FDA where they make very clear distinctions between dietary supplement, nutraceuticals, medicine. So we had to, as an attorney, I have to make sure that my clients are using the right vocabulary. I have to make sure that they understand what a claim is, because what a claim means to a layman is different than what a claim means to like the FDA and other regulatory agencies. You may say, hey, it's not fair that, someone, like there was an article written about my shop and I want to put it on my page, my Facebook page, but if, an agency sees it on my Facebook page, they're like, that's a claim. And you're like, I didn't write it. I can't say something that they feel is true. No. So it's a very delicate walk being in the gray area. You want to make sure that while we're in the gray, that you're not bringing, extra attention to yourself by, being like, we need to change this and being super, super, super vocal depending on what your function is. Because the law is the law, and we have to operate within the law. We have to be compliant, as you said, which is why I'm glad that you support people on the compliance side, because that is so critical to the long-term plan. The gray area is like, I have a talk that I did for Women Grow where I say, there's a difference between legality and enforcement. And that's the gray area that you're talking about. We have the law, and then in the law, there are many interpretations of that law. And that's why we have judges. That's why we have courts. Sometimes that's why we have attorney generals to write their opinion letters, which are not law, but they can be persuasive. So, understanding, the law says this, this is what an argument can be about that law, so we can continue to operate lawfully in our space. And the last thing you want to say is, well, the law's stupid. That gets you nowhere. Even if you believe that, you have to look at the law and say, you know what, how do we come together? How do we unify? And how do we make a good case to those we can influence to say, let's take the law to another level where it's more inclusive, where it gives better access, where it's not impeding on people's rights. So it's a delicate walk, but for my clients, the first priority is operating within the law. You have to do what's lawful. If what you do is lawful somewhere else, then my advice may be, you might want to look at this state or that state for what you want to do, and then you strengthen what you're doing and then become a boss there, have the capital where you can fund legalization efforts and lobbying and changing the laws where you really want to be.
Right.
So,
And, have you seen,
based on the situation.
Have you seen the same thing, kind of what we've seen across the board really is when the FDA sees something they don't like, they're sending out these warning letters.
Yes.
And that's kind of their first step. And then their second step is a more strongly worded warning letter. And then eventually, and I haven't even seen it go this far yet, but eventually it goes to fines. Have you seen anybody in the space that didn't follow those warnings? And obviously maybe not clients of yours, but maybe outside of your clientele that,
I think that's a great question. The FDA letter is a serious thing. And I think the best response to it is to get an attorney that is well-versed in working with the FDA in other types of, commodities, other types of, nutraceuticals and work with a really good attorney who specializes. I can take you so far, and I tell my clients that, but there's some really good attorneys that I love that really have that relationship. They understand the language, they understand how to, keep the response neutral enough where it sends the message that we want to do the right thing, which we do. As an industry, we were self-regulated for decades. So we've been regulating ourselves. We've been keeping people in check ourselves as an industry, but now we have regulatory bodies and we acquiesce to these regulatory bodies. So yeah, with the letters, anyone that I've known who has gotten one, they have been like, how do we comply? Because that's what we want to do. We want to continue to help people like we've always done. And I think, the thing with the FDA letter is, sometimes they're not closed. They, traditionally they don't close them. They just kind of don't escalate and it just stays right there. So we should all be afraid of an FDA letter. We should give the FDA their respect for keeping the public safe. They're there for a purpose. There are certain experts that know how to navigate those streams better than others, especially in the legal profession. But you have to take it seriously. You need to be prepared to make changes based on what the letter says. And making those amendments and those changes will only make you stronger. Because are you ultimately in the food service industry? Most likely you are if you're doing something with CBD. So you have to change the mindset from I'm in the gray or I'm in the I'm on the dark side. We need to graduate. from the dark side, from the gray area, and graduate to we're in the food industry, or we're in the agricultural industry, we're in the commodities business, and really make that transition. Some companies don't make that transition really well, just because we're straddling the fence. But it's what we prayed for and what we asked for. So we have to embrace it. We said, we want this to be legal. Well, when it's legal, the regulations are right there to follow. We need to be prepared for it. And shame on us if we didn't take that period when we were in the gray to prepare for what legalization.
Well, and that's, a big part of what I've always worked with companies on, whether I was directly consulting for them or not, is, they're going to follow what we do. The FDA, the USDA, they're going to take what we've already done, and that's going to be the groundwork for the rules. And, unfortunately, with the USDA interim final rule, they kind of skipped over a lot of what the states had already put into place. But now they're going back and taking those comments and taking heed to, okay, these states have done this. This has worked. Yeah. They're following, a legal framework. For instance, in Colorado, we're very lucky to have the foods bill, where we are legal. It says very specifically that CBD can go in food and be treated as a food. So we're regulated by our Department of Health. And that's extremely important, because these states that don't necessarily have any rules around food, we have people that are doing it that are afraid they might be in trouble, and then there's people who are doing it kind of under the radar for that exact reason, where if we had a regulation that said yes, this is acceptable, or no, this is not acceptable, we kind of know where to operate within. But I've always been a strong advocate for try to do it the best you can, because these government agencies are going to look at us and see how we've been doing it, and if they don't like the way we've been doing it, they're going to come up with their own willy-nilly crazy rules for us to follow. So I really like that you've been pushing, we have to do this to the best of our abilities. And like you said, we've self-regulated for so long. We have people that are grassroots, most of this industry, the vast majority of our industry is people who've built this from nothing. And we're grassroots entrepreneurs who maybe necessarily didn't come from a regulated industry, or didn't come from an industry where compliance necessarily was even mentioned. So being able to be willing to learn, I think, is one of the most important things for anybody coming into the industry. No matter how much you think be willing to listen to your coworkers, your peers, your superiors, the people that you look up to, and really, I think having a person that can guide you, having kind of a what's the word I'm looking for here?
Consultants, or
like a mentor. Even.
A mentor, that's the word I'm looking for. Having kind of a mentor when you're coming into the industry is really, I think, something that is important, and that a lot of people overlook. I mean, consultants are expensive. Friendships are sometimes hard to make, but the going in and working with people who've been doing this and who understand the industry as a whole, from legal and non-legal states, is really important.
Yeah, and I think we need to have a humble posture when we're approaching that. There's a lot of people who have knowledge that we don't have. Like when I got my first job in this industry, like I spent 6 months not making any money. Like I would just show up at their warehouse every day, like, I'm here, I want to support, I want to help. But I learned a lot, and eventually they did pay me and hire me on, but it took me 6 months to get there. But that knowledge was priceless. But not everyone is in the position to do that, but you need to be prepared to be in that humble posture. You can't just jump in the industry and expect people are going to say, here, pick my brain. No, that's not how it works. So I love what you said about that. Another point that I'd like to make is no one wants to be the queen of pigs. No one wants to be like leading for a group of sucky people. So we should aspire for higher as an industry. And we have some really great players in the industry. I also want to be cognizant, as I'm relaying this information, that we need to make sure there's a cottage industry as well. We need to make sure that the small player, the small farmers, they have a chance. They have a carve out where even if they can't afford a 30,000 square foot GMP facility, they can still participate. They can still play along with us. They can still innovate and be creative. We need to make sure that our students, that we're constantly pushing them to innovate and give them that space that they can play in so that we can compete globally. It can't just be, the people who have their, fiefdoms, and they did have that lucky streak during the gray area and made their millions of dollars, and then they're trying to write law to exclude the people who just want to get in, or they love cannabis, or they love hemp, they love natural products, and they have ideas. We need to create a space where they can participate as well.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
That's right. I think that's what's awesome about the co-working space that you're offering, because it really does give that opportunity. But at the same time, we know that all these regulations are in the best interest of the consumer for the most part. And ultimately, at the end of the day, as an industry, that's what we have claimed to be about, and what we want to really be about is this plant helping people and changing lives. So, good manufacturing practices are always going to emphasize that over making something in the garage or kitchen.
And having a really good mission is something very important, because if you don't know your mission and where you're going in your business, it's, what's the point? You can be having the best practices, but if you're not targeting or focusing or improving something, then, it's going to be difficult to really connect with people. So, yeah.
I was going to say too that, a lot of people, you mentioned earlier, is it Scheril, right? That a lot of people say, well, the law is stupid. It's so stupid. Well, yeah, of course it is. We're all stupid when we're little kids, right? The more we learn, the more we grow up. These people that are running the government, they don't know about this stuff. They are scared shitless of this plant. And so it's the ones that came from the past, and they did the best they could to educate the government as much as they could. And yes, they may have made a mistake or didn't mention this right, or, oh, wow, it's two separate plants. No, not really. But anyways, but it's okay. We got this far, and this is awesome. This is good. And that, I'm just super stoked that it's happening. And so we need to push that positive message to all these people that, hey, don't worry. Yeah, everyone's idiots, but we're growing up. We're getting there. And guess what? It's going to be all legal soon. Thank you, you guys in the past.
It's easy to post on Facebook like, this law's stupid, but what's harder is to go out and advocate for change when legislature comes back in session and go have those conversations. And it's not like one day, this is weeks and weeks of being at the Capitol. And so when you want change to happen, that's the way that it happens. So got to get out and put our feet on the ground.
Told me about, farming hemp in Florida. And I'm like, yeah, I know. Like, I was part of the process. I was in the Capitol every single year, making sure I'm the one who pushed back. So you don't need to have a bond to grow hemp. I was the one who pushed back. So it didn't have to be bona fide agricultural purposes land. Like, I was there. So it's really funny. But I think one thing I want to share is that being a part of this industry has made me a better person. So I think I want to encourage people to think beyond just the monetary part of it, and even the activism part of it, and really think about how you can grow as an individual. Over the past, 4 years or so, I've grown. Like, I've had to learn a tremendous amount of forgiveness for people who have done me dirty in this industry that I have to see all the time. I've had to, I'm better at recycling than I ever was. It was just kind of something I did if I saw a recycle bin, but if I wasn't getting fined, it wasn't really important to me. But now recycling is very important to me. I have a garden now. I'm growing okra and carrots and all sorts of things, and encouraging people to live healthier lives. I'm a pescatarian, thinking about going vegan very soon, to be better for our environment. Nothing against our, cattle farmers that I love, and our ruminant farmers that I love, but we have to go deeper. We have to aim higher. And when every bad experience, and there are plenty being in this industry, just because of self-interest, is an opportunity for you to role model the appropriate way to treat people in this industry. So always take the high road. The opportunities will come. You'll be a magnet for good people as well. And you may change a few folks along the way. even if they're just embarrassed when they try to destroy you, and they have to see you at the same board table, and they're grateful that you don't expose them or that you don't call them out for who they are, that changes them. And maybe they think twice about doing that to another person. So that's part of the message of the plant. The plant unifies people from different cultures, different backgrounds, but the plant can't help but influence you to do better. And that's why I'm always a little, I don't want, not suspicious, but when, we have the cannabis business person, but they don't consume any cannabis. And I'm talking about CBD, or they've never used the product.
Yeah, this is a red flag for us too sometimes.
Yeah, and even when like my client, your CBD store, they have 600 stores, but like when I go into one of their stores, like Secret Shop or whatever, I'm like, how do you use the product? Do you use the product? Because if they're not actually using it, you're not at that level that you need to be selling to other people, because you have to experience it. It's such a great plant. And, I go in the stores and they just start gushing. Like, I love it. The salespeople and that comes across to other people. So if you want a great sales team, you got to role model the right behavior. Don't come to me and say, hey, I want you to build me a sales team and do my business development, but you don't use the plant. You're just trying to make money off the plant. Yeah. Those people I can't vibe with. You got to be all in. You got to understand the benefits and the harm. You need to know how to mitigate the harm. Ideal in reality, I love cannabis, but I do know that there are, certain people where people need to know what dose works for them. They need to interact with their physicians. They need to know themselves as they consume, and ideal in reality. I don't sell people a pipe dream, but cannabis is so amazing for so many things. We imagine our lives if we really started using it for all the things that it can make. So, I may sound like a hippie, but because I walk the talk, I live it. 4 generations of my family use hemp CBD products made by my clients. So I don't position clients that I'm not willing to use their product myself.
Yeah, to your point, it's just like a barista for Starbucks or some small town coffee shop, and I've had it before. That it's like, oh, I don't even like coffee. I'm like, what are you doing here?
What are you doing here? Here.
It's so true.
That's perfect. That's Captain Cannabis. I couldn't have said it better myself. That's exactly the experience.
And I think you hit on a really good point here about the plant making us better people. Like there's, sometimes we've had various experiences where you feel ripped off, or somebody, fill in the blank of all the things as we know that can happen. And at the end of the day, we always go back and say, what is our mission here? Our mission is for consumers to adopt hemp. Did anything that happened, like our company doesn't have to be the one, and we could never handle that entire huge mission. We're just this small piece of it. So did the ultimate mission get fulfilled, even if it wasn't by us? Yes, it did. So can we really complain, even though you keep in the back of your mind of who did that and why, and you do see them change, like you said, different individuals, and you avoid maybe that exact experience in the future. But ultimately, it's all about the mission continuing, and we see it continuing on right now.
It's why Hemp Tours exists. We started the Hemp Tours. I mean, we're in the manufacturing in the beginning, but the reason why we started Hemp Tours is because so many people didn't know what they're doing, and we wanted to give back to our communities. We wanted, Texas was just getting into this business, and we're like, well, who are the farmers going to sell to? We need to bring people to other people's shops, and then we realized that people in the shops don't know what they're doing. So then we started designing programs for education. So we have Hemp Business Builder. We have all kinds of programs to teach and educate to help everyone, to get this consumer adoption.
I want to learn more about that. I don't know enough. I'd love to learn what you're doing with that. One last point on the, shady people in the industry part. We need to make sure we give them an opportunity to grow. Do not expect someone to treat you the same way they did a year ago. Now, give people an opportunity to reinvent themselves and be better people. We all need that room. Some people do things that, they're really dirty, and then they come back and they're like, you were right, or I am sorry. And they become givers and they become sharers. So we have to have balance. In all things, have balance.
That's amazing point, Cheryl, for sure.
Especially when that message really should go across the board with everything that's happening right now. You know, this is the time for go back to people that didn't think the way you did and talk to them now. And you know they may have changed, and it's okay to change, because that just means.
And a word of caution too. Word of caution, because we know about abused wives that keep going back to the husband. So if you find the person hasn't changed yet, just move on. Let someone else train that person. Don't be abused. Just a word of caution. I agree. Totally.
Cannabis is about freedom. So whatever, if you need to be free from a person, a business, a relationship, be free, wish them well, and move on to do. If you focus your energy on what's next and what's positive and higher levels, you're going to see the outcomes. You're going to have a fulfilled life. You're going to have a happy life. Your children are going to be happier, and you're not going to be, held back into that, bitterness of what happened, and having that play over in your mind. You have to release that and release that person to do good or to do bad. And then you focus on what your impact and influence can be on your environment.
And Cheryl, you make a great point on that, because everything is energy, right? It's the only thing that that science, theology, and religion all agree on, is that energy is never created or destroyed, only recycled. So you only have, as a human, a certain amount of energy that you can put out into the world. And if you're focusing that energy on someone who did you wrong or something that you feel wasn't right, you're never going to progress and move forward. I mean, I think all of us who've been in the industry for more than a couple of years have probably built something on our backs with somebody else getting credit and then been kicked out the door, because they were there for the money, not for the growth of the plant. But holding on to that is not doing anybody any good. I've really found that you're able to take those as a learning experience and say, okay, this what personal growth I can take, and this is how the growth as an industry, and going around and bad mouthing people, or even if they did do you horribly wrong, is not going to make you look good, so that's something to really keep in mind. Sometimes, feeling scorned is they say there's nothing like the wrath of a woman scorned, but really sometimes the best thing you can do is be silent, because they're going to come out and they're going to prove themselves either, like you said, either good, or they're going to prove themselves as bad, and they're not going to last in the industry if they're not being honest. Right. If they're not being straightforward, and if they don't have the right mission, as Cynthia mentioned, they're not going to make it in the industry. And we know that. We've seen that. I mean, for the last 5 years, we've seen multiple big companies fail because the only thing they were after was the quick buck. Yep. And now we want to lift up, and I love that you focus on farmers and small business entrepreneurs, because one of the biggest things for me is seeing that these people in every industry have been treated like poop. I mean, whether it's, I come from the chemical world before I was in cannabis, and seeing the farmers lose everything year after year after year in agricultural commodities. I mean, we're talking about corn and soy and bean, other types of beans, potatoes. I mean, seeing these farmers literally taking out second and third mortgages just to try to keep their farm afloat, when they've had this farm for 7 generations, is truly sad. And I love to point the finger and blame Monsanto and Dow and all those companies, but in reality, we've allowed this as a culture because we haven't put a spotlight on it. When GMO kind of came into the forefront, people started paying attention to the fact that they were spraying chemicals on our crops. That had been happening for decades before it came out into the mainstream media at all. So, I think really focusing on these small farmers, these small entrepreneurs, and allowing them to grow is how we're going to change our world, not just our industry.
Yeah. Even regionalization is so interesting and important. Like in construction, with the industry I came out of, it's, the LEED standards, like buying something within 500 miles of where you live. And imagine that being applied in everything, in food, in clothing. If we always tried to buy that close, not just made in the USA, but actually made by our communities, what an impact that can make. And then even more so, if that was all made out of hemp, of course. But, of course, there's other things people farm too.
There's a sense and pride of supporting your communities, supporting the small farmers. We should be proud of that. That is the American way, with all the wonderful, diverse cultures that make America great. We take pride in that. And part of that pride is in the fact that we don't let the small guy get knocked on their asses. We will fight back however we can, however it's comfortable. Not everybody's going to go to the, the Tallahassees and, the, state capitals, Albany's, et cetera, and so on. It's not for everyone, but those who can should. When I formed my merchandising company, Knurban, I wanted it to be a protest line, like a revolutionary protest line. So you can go on knurban.com. You don't have to buy anything, but just look at, the shirts are all about love and peace and, elevating the ganja farmer and Rastafari as well, because I have an affinity with Rastafari. That's where a lot of my concepts about, love and freedom come from, is understanding more about Rastafarianism and the connection with land and things like that. But even like one of our first tanks that we did has in Chinese letters the word resist. And a lot of people are like, why Chinese? You're not Chinese. Is that appropriations? And it's like, no, I've always had an affinity with Chinese culture. I think it's really cool. And I think if people don't know what the shirt says, they'll ask. So you start a dialogue. And when I was 5 years old, I would be watching Kung Fu movies with my dad every Saturday. So it's all of that stuff wrapped up in a little tiny revolution, so that every time you wear that, then someone will say, what does that mean? Well, it means resist. And it means that, we need to legalize cannabis because there are patients out there. And, sometimes, like one of the events I was vending at and I had my Knurban stuff out, there was, someone who came up to my table. She was Chinese and she loved it. And she was like, I want the bandana, I want the shirt, because it was like really like the American way, embracing a culture that's not ours, elevating a culture that's not ours, words that mean the same to a Chinese woman as they mean to me. And it means, listen, we are free. We should have access to this plant. How do we make it happen? We make it happen together. And that's what Knurban is all about.
How do you spell that, Scheril?
CANNURBAN.com, Knurban.com.
And one of our biggest challenges as an industry has been the claim that there's not the science behind everything that we're saying. And I just really want to put out there how false that is. Just because the research wasn't based in the United States until, the last 4 years, doesn't mean that it's not valid. I am constantly reading research. I mean, constantly researching and reading white papers, or constantly, and dissecting those, and really digging deep into the real chemistry papers, the real biological and biochemistry, and what this plant can do on those levels. And there is so much research. It's starting in like 1968 was the oldest paper that I found dealing with cannabinoids in the human body. Now, I don't present anything that's older than 1995, just because there's usually new research that's out that either confirms it or kind of blows it out of the water. Science has changed so much. But when it comes to our cultures across the board, one thing that I see is everybody really wants to know the why. And we have the science now, and the how. We have the science to explain the how and the why, and kind of bring everybody from every side together. And I just want to expand on that to where what you said is it changes us as a person. When I started using CBD on a daily basis and understanding the science behind how CBD worked, so many other natural things, remedies, and natural ways of healing. I call it healthcare because going to the doctor is sick care. But putting things into my body that are actually good for me. And that started by doing scientific research on cannabinoids and realizing that, these plants are living organisms that interact with our bodies in ways that we can now understand. And so I just love that you're able to kind of bring people together in a way that we haven't really seen in the industry a lot. And I love that you mentioned we can have an appreciation and an affinity for other cultures without it being cultural appropriation, right? I mean, I can wear a Rasta shirt and support Rasta, and even though I don't practice all of the things that are in that movement, and I can still support that because it's something that I believe in. I've looked at that. I've learned so much about love. I've learned so much about community, and that's something that we don't see a lot. So I just want to show gratitude to you and towards you for working towards that.
Oh yeah, it's huge. Like when it comes to the cultural appropriation conversation, I mean, I believe in it, but I think we need to just leave the room for appreciation. There's this difference between the appreciation of another culture and the appropriation of another culture, and even like the raping of another culture, which happens very often. So they're all different things, but I think we should appreciate all the things. And I think we see signs of other cultures in what we do. I mean, what's the favorite meal for every kid in America? It's pizza. It's Italian. It's not. You know what I mean? So
hey, but it could be French fries, and but the truth is the French fries are not really French fries. You know where they're from, right? They're from Belgium. So just Belgium, half the country speaks French, and so there was a French-speaking guy that came to America, and they started saying, the fries are made by the French guy, but he was just speaking. Anyways, but it's actually Belgian fries, just saying.
Exactly. See, there it is. And a lot of times we have these assumptions and we haven't even done the research. We haven't even stretch ourselves to investigate other cultures. My son, he's goes to school. It's mostly Hebrew school, and he's learning about different cultures there. Fortunately it's mixed. There's a little bit of everyone, but I didn't see where he was interacting with a lot of Asian kids. And I was like, well, we have to change that. So like we've been in COVID lockdown. We've been watching episode after episode of Fresh Off the Boat from that's on ABC, which I think shows really, it's a great fun experience as a Chinese young man who's proud of who he is, proud of his culture, and just the funny things that he finds about his culture, but also defending his culture with against the ignorance that's in the world. But as we, that's a great segue to legacy. But as we build this industry, as we build the next generation, we need to be very cognizant of the fact we have the ability to make tweaks and changes and determine that we want it to be fair, and determine that we want people to be healthy healthier in the next generation, and determine that we want our kids to understand that there is variety in life and that there is diversity in life, and that is a good thing.
Yeah, amen.
And
to
they
that.
also bring a voice to it. They'll be bringing their own voice to
they're going to see things a little bit different than we do, which is just a beautiful progression of the story of humanity.
Yeah. And one thing that you and I talk about often, Scheril, is allyship. Just because you aren't necessarily from a certain background or from a certain culture, or even shared similar experiences, from a place of empathy, you can become an ally with these groups who maybe have, experienced different types of hardships and different types of being pushed against, not only just not being helped and escalated, but being purposefully hindered. So we talk about allyship a lot. And I think that that's important, not only in our industry, but as a world, being able to say, hey, look, I may not come from where you come from, or I may not have had the same experiences that you've had, but I want to understand, and I want to learn, and I want to help move this forward. And so I'm just, that's something we talk about a lot. And I think that does also move into legacy, is how can we create these allyships that allow us to progress instead of, sacrificing one to grow the other. And I look forward to really building that out, that message, and really amplifying that message that these allyships matter.
Yeah, allyships are so important. I mean, the challenging part about allyship is it has to come from a place of humility. And there's a sense of pride in being that person that loves everyone. So you forget about the humility because you're like, I'm proud, I'm new age, I'm with it, but you forget about the humility side of it. And to give an example, a non-traditional example is like, myself as an ally to the disabled community, I can't be the one to say, and disabled people feel this, and we need to do that, and we need to do that. As an ally to the disabled community, I have to listen and understand their experience and have them drive the bullet points or speaking points, and I'm just lending my support. So I may be like, and we need to make this successful and this successful, and then they say, you know what, I have special abilities. I don't have disabilities. You're saying I have disabilities. I don't see it that way. I have special abilities, and I want it then my environment to look like this. There needs to be that room for it. And it's the same when you're talking about culture and you're talking about race. Being an ally, the most important part of being an ally is being in a posture of humility to support and empower, and sometimes defend. And the road to progress has always looked like that. It's never been done by just one group by themselves. There's always been diversity and revolution.
Right.
I love that. Diversity and revolution. That's gonna be one of my new taglines, Scheril. I'm still in that one.
And what we need to do is ask people, what because we all have something to share. Everyone has a story, no matter who you are on the planet. So you can't assume. That's where the prejudging comes from, is that our mind thinks, oh, they may think this way, but it's better to just say, hey, do you think that way? Because they may not. You never know what they think unless you ask.
Everybody's different. There's not a solitary Black voice. I hate to tell you, but there isn't. I can't speak for all Black folks, and I don't try to. But I know wrong. I know wrong when I see it, and I slap back every chance I get.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah. That's definitely something that I've worked with international students just on my career, and it's very interesting when the perspective that the rest of the world has on Americans, and we forget, tending to just kind of think, okay, we live in our small world. Well, it's not really a small world, it's a big country. And people forget, not all Americans are like that,
Right.
There's not necessarily one bad, there's just a lot of varieties, and just like the rest of the world, that's how the U.S. is.
Because we all come from different countries. You, I do.
Trying to teach that to people and say, hey, it's not as bad as it seems, because there's a lot of people like you from everybody else and like me that are coming here. So yeah, it's value, and not just generational value, but also understanding. And I feel that's more compassionate, when people understand how others live, their culture, their language. And it's an eye-opener. And if you can experience it, whether it's just from watching a show or connecting with somebody, and looking for those groups and become allies, and then hopefully we can hold hands at one point.
I think it's an awesome experience for him. I think he sees a lot of himself in this little boy, who's the narrator for Fresh Off the Boat. So I
love that show. Yeah,
I love the show. It's just great content, and I'm learning so much about culture. So yeah, I love it.
Yeah, the name is, the minute I saw it, I was like, what? Fresh Off the Boat?
No,
that's really
derogatory.
Yeah, that's a very derogatory term when you tell that.
Actually, he may have taken a shower.
Blackish. What does that mean, blackish? But I love that show. It's exactly perfect. Yeah.
And fresh off the boat, maybe just showered or something. He's very fresh. I don't know.
Well, and Scheril, I want to just shine the spotlight real quick back onto Ken Abiziak and the U.S. Hemp Brokerage, or U.S. Hemp Building Association. Sure. I love everybody over at the U.S. Hemp Building Association. I will be on the board. You just wait. I've been talking to the guys about it for a while, so I definitely plan on that becoming a reality eventually. But I do want to just shine a light on, I feel like a lot of minorities in our industry haven't been given the opportunity to really understand or the opportunity to come into the industry. So I just want to shine that light really one more time on how is this, on the U.S. Hemp Building Association, how are these scholarships going to be? Is there going to be an application process where people can come in?
We're still developing it. I'm right now co-chair with Cameron McIntosh of the Diversity and Inclusion Committee that was designated to develop the rules. So we're still working out. We have to meet and figure out what that looks like for the long term as far as giving those scholarships. We've already had a couple referrals for the scholarship, so we need to move quickly, but it's super exciting times. And, thank you for recognizing that, sometimes it is challenging for, African Americans to get into the industry. And we want to make it easier for everyone to embrace the plant. And if they choose to monetize as a result of it. And I think U.S. Hemp Building Association is critical because there are many uses for hemp. It's not just CBD. CBD is not the only cannabinoid. So by focusing on building and sustainability, there's the potential to solve a myriad of societal issues. So I've heard, we want to do low-income housing using hemp. We want to do group homes using hemp. There was a fire in a town in Jamaica. We want to rebuild using hemp. Those are the conversations I like to hear. And I think there's huge potential there. We got to speed up the knowledge on how to do it. Europe is way ahead of us, but that's what USHBA does, is we bring those experts from Europe and we do webinars and we try to educate people here. So, how do you access binding materials? Does binding work the same in Florida as does your binder work the same in Florida as it will in like a Chicago, because of the difference in temperature climates? We're still in a discovery period, which means that scientists like yourself are very, very welcome in the hemp building arena.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think construction in general, an industry that's gotten much more diverse over the last 15 or so years. And, very exciting times that you can turn around in an expo hall at a construction trade show now and see such amazing diversity, where 15 years ago, it was just kind of everyone looked the same. So I think that it's really awesome to build the foundation of hemp building already from a diversified place, and exciting things. We know a lot of work has to go there with IBC codes and all of these things. So we're so lucky and grateful to have such amazing leadership over there at the U.S. Hemp Building Association, no doubt.
I have to give credit to Eric McKee. He's one of the founders.
Oh, yeah.
And he asked me to join the board. I was the first, person of color on the board. And from there, we got Lady March, who's a phenomenal, building supervisor here in Florida. She's a good friend of mine, been a friend for years. And then we have Kim Claxton, who's our treasurer. And she's, a cannabis accountant, and she's a Black woman as well. So we, as we've grown, we've really started out diverse, and we have grown in a diverse way. And we just want to make sure that we put things in place so that when we're not here, that continues. But Eric was the one with the vision. He's the one who saw it and invited me to the table, a table that traditionally doesn't have someone like me on it. And I think we've grown together as a board, and we have a mutual respect for each other. We don't always agree, but we move forward in diversity, and we accept the differences within each individual.
And shout out to Henry Vallis too. He's really amazing, of course, based here in Austin, Texas. And he's done so much. I mean, he built the hemp home here at Community First, and just always has been pushing forward. Even before the website, I think, was done, he was out networking. So that's awesome. Well, guys, this has flown by. It's been an absolute blast.
Amazing.
But
This is part one.
That's right, for sure. Hey, y'all are welcome back. Y'all are welcome back anytime.
Yes.
Now, Kayla, what's the best place for people to connect with you online? Is that on LinkedIn or Instagram?
LinkedIn, or they can go to my website. It is being revamped right now. They can go to hippiehempster.net and contact me through there, or they're welcome to go to my LinkedIn, yeah, under Kayla Haddix-Heard. So either one of those are good. And you know, the thing, Scheril, that you did mention earlier that I think is so important is there is so much more to hemp than CBD. So there's the building materials, and you know, that's what Hippie Hempster is really about. It's all based with hemp seed oil based products that really are healing for humanity. And it was a way for me to showcase that there's more to this plant than CBD, even though I think CBD has a very wonderful place within the industry. There's so much more to it than just the CBD and the other cannabinoids, the major and minor cannabinoids. So if anybody has any questions about the science behind the plant, if anybody has any consulting needs, if I can't help you directly, I have a vast network of people that I'm happy to connect you with. And I'm just really grateful to Leah and Cynthia and Captain Cannabis to be here. And like you said, you know, I'm originally from Texas. I quit my big fancy job in the chemical industry to uproot everything and move to Colorado specifically to work in this industry, in this space. And I'm just very grateful to have people like you guys pushing the education, because that's the biggest thing I've seen is people don't understand this plant because they've never had the opportunity to learn about it. So I think, you know, pushing forward with education is so very important.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Thanks, Kayla.
Before we leave though, I think today we started doing a segment which I think is going to be super good to end right now, because we're talking about, you know, international things and cultures and mixing it up. And so we're going to be doing a Spanish word of the week with Hemp Tours.
And last week we learned cáñamo.
Yeah. So do you remember last week's word, guys? What is cáñamo?
Oh man, Kayamo.
Yeah.
Oh, hemp tour.
Well, that's the name of a actual license holder in Jamaica that is called Canamo.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
they have multiple ganja licenses in Jamaica.
Yes.
In Spanish,
Yeah.
is Cáñamo.
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 And today I was going to talk about just one word, which is cannabinoids. So, how do you say cannabinoids?
¿Cómo se dice cannabinoids en español?
Muy bien, Daniel. ¿Cómo se dice?
Dankeschön. Muchas gracias. Sorry, a little German slip.
Cannabinoides. I just want to repeat.
Cannabinoides.
Muy bien, clase. Muy bien.
Gracias.
Sí, y ahorita hay seis cannabinoides más comunes. So, can you all say these? Do you know your letters in Spanish, please?
Cannabinoides.
T,
H,
H,
C.
C.
A, B, C, D, E, F, E. I gotta start with A and work my way down. A, B, C, D.
These are a little bit less to remember, so we can practice. Yeah, THC, CBN, CBG. So how about these? Somebody want to try the ones on the right?
Maybe next time.
I mean, I can butcher them for you if you want, but
yeah, go ahead. Try
I think I need a few more lessons.
I think I need a drink.
I was working on the memory hook for the cannabinoides. It's like can you know this? I'm just trying to think of a memory hook. So cannabinoides, can you know this? I don't know. I'm trying here, guys.
Can you know this? Yeah.
Can you know it?
Yeah, it's a good thing to remember too, and I try to explain to everybody is that, you know, a lot of our hemp terms are scientific terms, which end up being, you know, very similar. So
because they're based mostly
Latin.
in Latin. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you'll always be able to talk to somebody in any country about cannabis,
Awesome.
cannabinoides. So it sounds a little bit.
Cannabinoides. All right.
Cannabinoides.
Can you be annoyous?
Wait, does this go back to Captain Cannabis theory that if he just does the accent, then he's speaking like another language? So maybe in science that is
Ese es
true.
muy.
I should get my 7-year-old. He's been taking Spanish for 3 years, and he would be able to nail this.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you, Cindy.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for that. Cannabinoides. And Scheril, what's the best place for people to get in touch with you on
Works for me
LinkedIn?
as well, Scheril. My name's very unusual, so it's Scheril, Scheril Murray Powell, Esquire on LinkedIn. My email address is they're my initials, SMP Esquire at Outlook.com. So SMP Esquire at Outlook.com. You can also go on Cannabiziac and contact them and ask for Scheril, cannabiziac.com. But LinkedIn is a great way. I'm pretty responsive on LinkedIn. It's pretty up to date. So, and I post regularly. So, follow me on Facebook, follow me on LinkedIn, join the Black Farmers and Agriculturalists of Florida. I post on a very regular basis. That's our Cannabiziac site. Look at our membership levels. We'd love to have you and engage with you. It's all about progress and progress together.
Amazing. Well, this has been a truly fantastic day, y'all. Can't wait to have you back on again soon. And to all the viewers, thank you so much for tuning in. Keep on keeping on out there, guys. Living the dream.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
See y'all.
Bye.
Thank you so much.